I'm Yulia, the voice of the podcast Love to Heal, a journey of self-discovery, healing, and spiritual growth. Hello, my dear listeners. Today, I'd like to share with you my experience with a Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique session. If you listened to the previous episode on this same topic, I interviewed a QHHT practitioner who went over the basics of this practice. But to give you in a nutshell what QHHT is, it's a way of hypnotizing a person so that the client can connect to his or her higher self and to get answers to any pending questions, health issues, or really any question that you might have. Or sometimes your higher self will just tell you what you need to know at that specific point in time. And this is also a way to do past life regressions along with getting answers from your higher self. So after I interviewed that QHHT practitioner, I was so intrigued that I went ahead and scheduled a session for myself. I found a Quantum Healing and Wellness Center here in Cleveland, Ohio. I searched on Google for QHHT, and out of several places that came up in the search, I chose this particular one, just following my intuition. And as you know, there are no coincidences in this life. And what's interesting is the lady that I worked with turned out to also be from Russia, like me, and to also speak Spanish, like me. So we definitely had tons to talk about. But first things first, let me tell you how it all happened from the very beginning. First, I received an email from Svetlana, or Lana. She goes by Lana, the practitioner. And this email described how to prepare for the session. I was to, first of all, eat healthy, very healthy, several days prior to the appointment. I was to avoid caffeine and alcohol. And I also needed to get a good night's sleep the night before the session. The day of the session, the paperwork and interview portion was to last anywhere from 4 to 6 hours, which seemed odd to me because what could we possibly talk about for that many hours? But I'll tell you what happened. And the hypnosis portion was to last about 2 or 2.5 hours. So a couple of days prior to my appointment, I'm not going to lie, I did feel a little nervous, namely because I had no idea what my subconscious was going to reveal. What if it told me, I don't know, to abandon everything and move to Tibet or something in search of real happiness? I don't know. My husband too, he was worried that I'd come back a different person and that our family would fall apart. But of course, none of that happened, and QHHT is totally safe in that sense. So if you decide to do that, don't get any ideas like I did, because it's completely safe. It will not change you or the way you feel or anything like that. So no worries there. The day of the session, I actually was excited. I had scheduled it for 10 a.m. on a Sunday. And after having breakfast, I went there. And the studio, it's located in this hippie kind of suburb of our city in the basement of this practitioner's house, which is, by the way, very charming. When I walked in, I immediately felt the good vibes of the place. And the place, what made it really also charming and made it have good vibes is that it was decorated with all sorts of crystals and feathers and rocks, diagrams, and all kinds of books. And Svetlana, or I should probably call her Lana, too, made a great first impression. And I felt like she was a ray of sunshine, very warm and welcoming. And she started speaking to me in English, but I immediately asked if she spoke Russian, which she did. So we just switched to our mother tongue, and it was more personal that way, I felt. First, she told me about herself, much of which really resonated with me since we both have the academia background, I guess I could say. She came to the United States on a research grant, and she has a teaching license in special education and speaks several languages. And me, I have a master's degree and I also speak several languages and I teach languages. So we really connected in that sense. Then she started asking questions about me, my family, my work, trying to get to know me. And in the midst of this, she imparted so much new and interesting information to me that I was simply blown away by her knowledge and experience in the spiritual field. If my jaw was not dropped physically, it definitely felt like it. I honestly just was amazed by all the information that she shared with me. Many times she used pen and paper to get concepts across to me, such as the 12 chakras of the human. We tend to only learn about the 7 major ones, but there are more. And the 5 additional ones are called transpersonal chakras. They're located outside the body, and they integrate the spiritual and transcendent aspects of the human experience. She also used a stuffed toy to demonstrate how our higher self is really more of a driver and we are the car, and how our soul is, in a way, enclosed in our body during our life on earth, but also not limited to one body or one life. She explained that many of our souls have actually several bodies in this lifetime in different parts of this world, living parallel lives. She explained that through us, God wants to evolve, and we must remember that there's a spark of God in each one of us. She went on to say that I'm likely a star seed, and this is an individual from another planet or dimension that came here to heal and guide humanity into a period of great happiness. She said that there's a reason that I immigrated to Northeast Ohio, because this area is the heart chakra of our planet and one of the safest places in the world. This area will also be part of a light area from about Ohio to Central America, where there will no longer be any human race or religion. We will all have one consciousness. And it's interesting, when she was telling me that, just the day prior to the session, I felt this immense love for the city that I live in, for the area in which I reside. I couldn't explain it. It was like overwhelming feelings of love. I felt like I wanted to hug the city or this whole area. So that kind of now explains, I guess, why I feel so connected to this part of Northeast Ohio. Lana also called me a second wave volunteer. So let me explain a little bit about this. Dolores, the author and creator of QHHT, explained in her research that there are 3 waves of volunteers leading us to a new earth. The first wave of souls that were children at the time of the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki have the most difficult time adjusting because they don't like the violence and ugliness of this world, and they want to return home, so to speak, even though consciously they have no idea where home is. Even though many of these people seem to have a good life, many try to commit suicide because they just can't find true happiness. The second wave of volunteers, to which I belong, are moving through life much more easily. They're generally focused on helping others, creating no karma, and normally going unnoticed. They've been described as antennas, generators, and channels of energy. They've come with a unique energy that greatly affects others. They don't have to do anything, just be. And I've noticed this all my adult life. People want to be around me, confide in me, and several people have told me that my presence is soothing and calming. The paradox here, though, is that many second wavers don't want to be around people and choose to stay home as much as possible. Thus, they are actually defeating their purpose. But so the second wave volunteers would have been born in the 80s, approximately, 80s, 90s, in this time frame, maybe a little bit earlier too. And then the third wave are the new children. And Lana says that my children are included in this third wave, and they've come in with all the knowledge needed on an unconscious level, of course, because these kids have altered DNA. The thing is that our DNA is being altered to adjust to new frequencies and vibrations. But the kids that are already born in the third wave, their DNA is already at a new frequency. And many of these kids are misunderstood in their schools and by their parents. And what happens? They get medicated, right? Some 100 million people, or kids, I should say, have been misdiagnosed with ADHD, for example. But Dolores Cannon believes that these kids are so intelligent, they are simply bored at school. They just need to be more challenged to keep them interested. Another reason Lana thinks that I'm a star seed is because of my diverse background. Having come from Russia, being Jewish, living in the United States now, and also my deep love and appreciation of Latin American culture, through this eclectic point of view, what I can do, according to her, is that I can help take away judgments in people, make them realize that no matter where you're from, what color skin you have, what language we speak, we are all part of a universal consciousness. We all have the spark of God in us, right? When we discussed the topic of karma, I was also able to understand much more than I had previously understood. For example, I didn't know that you can choose to stop karma by not having offspring, for instance. She also made me realize that actually we choose how, when, where, and to what parents we want to be born, because we subconsciously know how to repay our karma. For example, if I choose to be born with a disability or die young, I will be forgiven the most karma this way. If I did something terrible in my past life, I will choose to suffer in this one. That's what the soul wants and needs. As Lana put it, death is a gift because it closes a bloodline that may be ridden with misfortunes, disease, etc. Similarly to the Jewish belief, we receive a kind of review of our life at the moment of dying. And we get to judge ourselves on what we learned and what lessons still need to be learned. This is why we get to choose how to repay our karma. But since everything is God, including our soul, which is a spark of God, then technically it is God judging us. But I guess it also makes sense to say that we do the judging. Another point I want to mention here is how I used to live my life believing in coincidences, but I now know that there's no such thing. I mentioned already that prior to my session, I was feeling especially connected to my city. And let me tell you a little bit more of why. So I was driving down an exceptionally beautiful street. I was surrounded by just abundant spring greenery. Just the spring here in Ohio is honestly breathtaking. There were flowers everywhere. There was this creek flowing by the road, birds chirping, sun shining. And like I said, I felt with all my being such love for the city, for nature in general. And I actually said to myself, I don't know if I said it out loud, I can't remember right now, but I know I said it to myself. I love, love, love this place. And then, like I said, the next day when I met with Lana, she explained that this area, Northeast Ohio of the United States, is the heart chakra of the world. But in addition to that, Lana said that there are tons of spiritual people here in this area, and that this land is sacred because indigenous people that lived here performed many spiritual ceremonies, and they also had deep love and respect for nature. And you know how I keep talking about spiritual awakening? Well, forgetting about the spiritual part for a moment here, I feel like I simply woke up. What I mean by that is I feel so much more connected to nature. I feel that I'm noticing so much more beauty in the world. I feel literally that I was asleep prior to my spiritual journey. Especially now that it's warmer out and we sleep with the windows open, I hear the most beautiful bird songs in the morning and later in the evening. Either they didn't sing like this before, or I never noticed it. And also, now that it's warmer, for the past several weeks, my family has been having dinner outside on our deck. And when I get a chance in the morning, I drink my tea outside as well. And I just sort of stare into the lush green landscape. This is maybe my way of meditating a little bit. And when I look into these green trees and these tall pine trees, which we have very diverse pine trees here, I just can't get enough. I feel like I could just stare into this greenery forever. Well, the next topic I want to bring up is the human design. I personally had not heard of this before, so Lana right away went to the computer to, it's called ahumandesign.com. She plugged in some data, such as my birth date, the actual time I was born, the date, the place of birth, and what came out is a 2-page report and chart of my human design. I have yet to study it in detail, but the main piece of information is that I am a generator. What this means is generators, they represent 70% of the population and are the life force of the planet, the builders. They have a defined sacral center and an open and enveloping aura that is constantly pulling life to them. More importantly, their strategy is to respond that lets them know if they are available to give their energy to something or not. In all, there are 4 human designs. So the generators, they're the most common ones. Then there's the projectors, the manifestors, and the reflectors. The human design helps us understand how we are hardwired, which in turn helps us figure out how to move through this world and what things to engage in. If you're curious, definitely check out this website. The report is free, so you have nothing to lose, and you can read up on it. And also, to continue with coincidences, guess what? 2 days later, after I found out about this human design, my cousin from Seattle, the one that I interviewed in season 2 of this podcast, she reached out to me to tell me that she just got certified in human design readings and that she wants to try it out on me and present it in my podcast. So stay tuned for that. That'll be coming out later this summer. So again, obviously it's not a coincidence. This was all planned, but it's just amazing how things work out in this life. I'll briefly also mention a few more things that we discussed over the course of our 5-hour tete-a-tete. I'm not joking. 5 hours, Lana and I just conversed. I honestly couldn't believe that we chatted for that long because the time flew by. Lana mentioned that after the latest eclipse, our old codes went away and new ones were activated. I was kind of bummed that I didn't feel anything during or after the eclipse, but she said that actually is a good thing because it means I'm accepting the changes with ease and evolving into greater light. By the way, I don't know where you are located in the world, but in May, we had a total eclipse here in Northeast Ohio, specifically in Cleveland. Many thousands and thousands of people came to Cleveland to watch the total eclipse, which was truly amazing. We also brushed on energy exchange in a way that I hadn't considered before. For instance, it used to be very important for a woman to preserve her virginity until marriage, right? We're talking about hundreds of years ago, or maybe not even that long ago. And in some traditions and some cultures and religions, this is still true. And energetically, this makes a lot of sense. You see, when a woman sleeps with a man, she actually takes on his energy and karma, after which she needs time to realign herself. And this could take years. So, to say that a woman is pure is to say that she's actually free of other men's energy and karma. When having sexual relations, we must know that the act involves an energy exchange. So we need to be mindful of whose energy we take on and to whom we give our energy to, because guess what? Ex-partners will keep feeding off our energy for years. If a woman feels, let's say, free and powerful, but then sleeps with a man that is disrespectful to her, her energy will change. And she might feel negatively about herself and energetically drained. Interestingly enough, for men who go from woman to woman and never start a family or start very late, this behavior has a great explanation too. Men that carry a lot of emotional baggage use women to literally unload their baggage onto. They dump their issues energetically into different women and then, feeling light and happy, continue on their way. Since women are receivers, they take in men's problems. Of course, we're talking about energetically. And often, after taking on all these emotions, right, the women struggle themselves for some time to find, stable relationships. And if you don't know anything about energy exchange, you're not going to attribute your issues to these one night stands. You might just think, oh, I have bad luck in love or something along these lines. But in reality, it could be because of sleeping with different men and taking on their negative energy. In a committed monogamous relationship, however, a woman can be a magical solution for a man that wants to unwind and forget about work or pressing issues. A woman, too, can gain great energy from her partner if he's in a good mood and in a good state of mind. In conclusion, let's just not forget that we are more than bodies, and the energy here is key. Okay, I think I am finally ready to talk about the actual QHHT session. So let me tell you exactly how it happened. Going in, I had a vague idea of what to expect, but it wasn't exactly as I'd imagined it. Lana sat me down in a comfortable chaise lounge chair and covered me with a warm blanket. She then asked me to put an eye mask over my eyes and gave me 2 shungite stones to hold in my right and left hands. This stone, what it does is it aids healing and it clears negative energy and also relieves stress. This is something that Lana chose to use in her practice, but you might not have that same experience with another QHHT practitioner. This is kind of unique to her. We started off with a relaxation exercise where I imagined myself sitting on a cloud that took me far away into a past life. I felt that I was falling asleep, and then I heard Lana asking me, Yulia, where are you right now? And at that point, I felt that I had woken up and I wasn't sure if I was under hypnosis. So I started answering Lana's questions to the extent that I could. But I also started seeing images. For example, the first thing I saw was a beautiful city, and somehow I knew that it was Prague. And I had never been to Prague, but I've seen pictures of Prague, so I kind of knew that it was Prague, but also I subconsciously knew that. And also, as if on a postcard, I saw the year written, 1897. I can still see it in my mind to this day. I also saw a girl running around and a little dog walking around the city. When asked to look down at my feet, which is a standard practice in past life regressions, I honestly couldn't see them. I think I couldn't sense that I was that girl. I was merely an observer. So I just kind of saw everything from a third person. And then we moved on in time, and I saw a celebration. I think it was a birthday. And then I saw a young woman trying on a wedding dress. And then I saw her with a baby in her arms. And when Lana asked me to look at the baby and tell me who that baby is, I started to cry because I told her that it's my mom. So I guess in that life, my mom was my daughter, which is really interesting. Then we moved to another scene where I saw myself as an old woman with gray hair and a bun, sitting in a wheelchair. At that point, I remember a young man with a woman came to visit me, and I felt that it was my son with his fiancée. When Lana asked me who that man is, I said that it's my husband. So it looks like my now husband was my son in that past life. Finally, I saw my very peaceful passing. I was laying in bed. It was a beautiful 4-post bed, and there were some people there to say goodbye to me. And then I passed away, and I saw darkness. I didn't see anything at all, actually. Lana asked me if anyone was there guiding me through the void, and I think I saw 2 angel-like creatures with wings take me by the arms and fly me up. Although I didn't have a body, I was invisible, I was just like air. I don't remember seeing much else, but I somehow felt that these angels took me by my arms and flew up with me. Then Lana asked me some questions that I simply couldn't answer. And I guess maybe this is because it wasn't the right time to reveal certain information to me. But, for example, Lana wanted to know which planet I was from and which light language I know, but I couldn't answer that, which was a little bit frustrating, to be honest. But we decided to just leave that alone and continue with the session. By the way, I mentioned light language here. This type of language is a form of communication that bypasses human limitations around the meaning of words. It has no fixed alphabet. It's a vibrational expression that speaks directly to our soul and DNA, and actually has the capacity to heal us emotionally and physically, connect to our inner wisdom, activate dormant gifts and truths, and to connect to our purpose in life. And it's interesting that I later on, I'm just actually remembering this right now, a day or two ago, I had a dream in which I spoke this light language that Lana spoke to me. I'll explain this in a little bit here. But if you're curious, Google it, or even better, go to YouTube and type in light language, and you'll get a lot of really interesting videos of people speaking different light languages. So just something else that is completely new to me and might be interesting to you. So check that out. So Lana then proceeded to ask my higher self many questions that she'd recorded from our interview that day. Some answers came easily, while others not at all. A couple times I had to ask Lana if it's actually my higher self talking or just my mind making stuff up. And she assured me that it was my higher self, which is the best version of me that knows everything about me and what's best for me. She said that sometimes we hear a voice as an answer, and sometimes it may be images and symbols. So after answering some of those questions, she started to use energy healing techniques and that light language on me. And the light language, at least the one that she spoke, it sounds like baby speaking gibberish, honestly. Again, I'm not going to try to reproduce it right now. Look it up. To remove energy blocks from my throat chakra and my third eye, she used some Reiki, some hand movements around my throat and third eye area, which is kind of between the eyes, a little bit higher in the forehead. And she said that she was able to remove some energetical blocks. And then she asked my higher self to scan my body for any deficiencies. And I heard or saw the word calcium. She then asked what supplements I should take. And all I heard was kale. Like the leafy vegetable kale. I'm personally not into supplements. I believe that food provides all the necessary nutrients to us. So that answer totally made sense to me. But it's also kind of funny. We continue to speak about a few other matters. I won't go into detail about each one, but the final piece of advice that I received that I will share with you is this. So I know that my love and light that I'm so eager to share with the world may not be for everyone. I often took it personally when people refused or mocked my spiritual opinion or guidance. I didn't understand why anyone would turn down my good vibes, right? It's like, how can you turn down my smiling face and bubbly personality? But now I'm at peace with this because Lana actually provided a really good explanation to me. Oftentimes, judgment and anger in return for kindness comes from a place of pain. So what may be happening is that my light may cause discomfort in some people. My outpouring of good emotions can actually become a trigger for people who are living in pain or sadness, which is very understandable. My light may shine in their dark places, which makes them feel uncomfortable. And when I put myself in their shoes, it made sense. You know how sometimes when you're in a bad mood, or maybe you've just experienced a tragedy or someone's passing, and you just want to, let's say, grieve, or you just want to be left alone, and you want that time of sadness as closure maybe, and then somebody comes around all smiley and giggly, and you just want nothing to do with that, right? I'm sure each one of us has experienced moments like that where you don't need anybody cheering you up. You just want to be left alone. And I think that's what I was missing from my understanding of why some people just don't want to be around me. Well, at least partially, that's why, right? There's always the chance that we meet people that are just on different vibrational frequencies with us. They're so different energetically that we just don't jibe. Or there's also the chance that we were enemies in a past life or caused each other distress, and we want nothing to do with them in this life, because that is a quite common occurrence that we actually don't know about. Why you are just repelled by some people and then other people you're attracted to. And to conclude for today, I just want to point out that there are so many different lenses through which you can look at spirituality and study it. There are so many different healing modalities and ways to connect to your higher self. There's no right or wrong. We just need to follow our intuition and find what's right for us. And it's okay to try different things, just like I'm doing on my spiritual journey. I'm really trying it all. And the main message here is that no matter what you choose, as long as your goal remains love and connection to your higher self and to God, then you are on the right track. So I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for listening to this episode. I will leave you today with a quote by Dolores Cannon. Enjoy it, and until next time. There is no bad. There is no good. There's only lessons and experiences.